Tonight, I want to tell you about a winter's evening when I found something precious hidden in the snow. A little bakery that shouldn't have existed, but did. A place where warmth lived, even in the deepest cold. Let your breathing slow. Let your eyes grow heavy if they wish. You need not follow every word. Just let my voice carry you into the quiet, into the snow, into the warmth. The snow had been falling since morning. Not the wild, biting kind that stings your face and steals your breath. No, this was the gentle kind. The kind that falls straight down in fat, lazy flakes, turning the world soft and silent. Each flake drifted slowly, as if it had all the time in the world to reach the ground. I'd been walking through the valley for most of the day. My boots left deep prints in the fresh snow, and within minutes, new flakes filled them in, erasing my passage as if I'd never been there at all. The forest around me was utterly still. The bare branches of the trees were laden with snow, bending slightly under the weight. Evergreens stood like silent guardians, their needles frosted white. Everything was muffled. Even my footsteps made only the softest crunch, crunch, crunch in the powder. My breath came in clouds of white. My fingers were cold inside my gloves, and my nose had gone numb an hour ago. But I wasn't miserable. There's something about walking through falling snow that's almost meditative. The world shrinks down to just you and the white and the quiet. Still, I was tired. My bones ached with the particular weariness that comes from cold, settling deep. I'd been hoping to reach the next village before nightfall, but the snow had slowed me, and the light was already fading to that soft grey blue that comes before true darkness. I stopped for a moment, leaning on my staff, wondering if I should make camp or keep walking. That's when I smelled it. Bread. Fresh bread. Baking. The scent was unmistakable, yeasty and warm, with hints of honey and something else. Cinnamon, perhaps, or nutmeg. It drifted through the cold air like a memory of summer. I stood there, snowflakes catching on my hood, and breathed it in. It was coming from somewhere ahead, somewhere deeper in the valley. I shouldn't have been able to smell it from so far away. Bread doesn't travel on the wind like that. But I could, clear as anything. I started walking again, following that scent like a thread through the trees. The snow continued to fall. The light continued to fade. But the smell grew stronger with each step, and now I could detect other things too. Butter, melting and golden. Berries, sweet and tart. Sugar, caramelizing. Wood smoke, clean and comforting. My stomach rumbled. My cold fingers curled with longing. Whatever was making those smells, I needed to find it. The trees began to thin, and I stepped into a small clearing. There, nestled against the base of a hill, stood a cabin. Oh, but it wasn't just any cabin. It was small, hardly bigger than a shepherd's hut, built from dark timber that had weathered to a beautiful silver gray. The roof was thick with snow, sloping gently, and icicles hung from the eaves like crystalline daggers, catching the last of the light and throwing it back in tiny rainbows. But what drew my eye, what made my heart lift, was the light. Warm golden-orange light spilled from two small windows, glowing against the blue twilight like captured sunshine. The glass was frosted at the edges, but through the clear centers, I could see movement inside, shadows flickering, the dance of firelight. Above the door hung a wooden sign carved with simple letters, the Snowfall Bakery. Smoke curled from a stone chimney, rising in a lazy spiral before disappearing into the falling snow. And the smells. Oh, the smells were even stronger here. They wrapped around me like an invitation, like welcome made tangible. I stood there for a moment, just looking, just breathing it in. Then I walked to the door and knocked, 3 soft taps with my knuckles against the weathered wood. Come in," called a voice from inside. "Don't let the cold in with you, but do come in." I pushed open the door. Warmth rushed out to meet me. Not just heat, warmth. The kind that seeps into you immediately, that makes your muscles unclench and your shoulders drop. I stepped inside quickly and closed the door behind me, and for a moment I just stood there, letting that beautiful warmth soak into my bones. The bakery was even smaller inside than it had looked from outside, but it didn't feel cramped. It felt cozy, intimate, like being held gently. The walls were lined with rough wooden shelves, and those shelves were filled with bread. Loaves of every size and shape, round boules dusted with flour, long baguettes with crispy crusts, braided challah gleaming with egg wash, small rolls arranged in neat rows. The sight of it all made my mouth water. In the center of the room stood a large stone oven built into the wall. Its iron door was open and I could see the glow of embers inside, radiating steady heat. The stones themselves seemed to pulse with warmth. Beside the oven, a wooden work table was dusted with flour. A rolling pin lay there, and bowls of various sizes, and a wooden board with dough resting on it, covered with a clean cloth. Copper pots hung from hooks on the ceiling. Bundles of dried herbs, rosemary, thyme, lavender, dangled alongside them, filling the air with subtle fragrance beneath the stronger scent of baking bread. And there, standing beside the work table, was the baker. He was a man perhaps 60 years old, with a round, kind face and eyes that crinkled at the corners. His hair was mostly grey, pulled back in a short tail. He wore a simple apron over warm wool clothing, and his hands, strong, capable hands, were dusted with flour. He smiled at me, and it was the kind of smile that reaches all the way to the eyes, the kind you can't fake. "Welcome, traveler," he said. His voice was deep and gentle, like a cello played softly. "You look half frozen. Come, sit by the oven. I'll get you something warm." I moved toward the heat gratefully. There was a simple wooden stool near the oven, and I sank onto it with a sigh of relief. Already I could feel the cold releasing its grip on me. My fingers began to tingle as feeling returned to them. The baker moved to a small stove in the corner, not for baking, but for cooking. A kettle sat there, steaming gently. He poured something into a ceramic mug and brought it to me. "Snowberry tea," he said, "with a touch of honey and a whisper of cinnamon. It'll warm you from the inside." I took the mug in both hands. The ceramic was warm, almost hot, perfect against my cold palms. I breathed in the steam, sweet and spiced, and somehow both comforting and invigorating at once. Then I tasted it. Oh, the tea was perfect. Not too sweet, not too bitter. The snowberries, those tiny winter fruits that grow only in the coldest months, gave it a subtle tartness that balanced the honey. The cinnamon added warmth without overwhelming, and there was something else, something I couldn't quite name. A feeling more than a flavor, like being wrapped in a favorite blanket, like safety. "That's extraordinary," I said. The baker smiled. "Thank you. I grow the snowberries myself, in a little patch behind the bakery. They don't mind the cold, they prefer it actually. And the honey is from bees that nest in the hollow oak down the valley. They make the sweetest honey you've ever tasted." I took another sip, feeling the warmth spread through my chest and down into my belly. My whole body seemed to sigh with relief. "I'm Martin," the baker said, returning to his work table. "I keep this bakery. Have done for, 20 years now, perhaps 25. Time moves strangely out here." "I can imagine," I said. "I'm a traveler, a wizard, though not a very important one. I was passing through the valley when I smelled your baking." "All the way out there?" Martin looked pleased. "Well, I do make sure the scent carries a bit. Seems only kind to let cold travelers know there's warmth nearby." "A bit of magic, then?" "The smallest bit." He dusted flour off his hands, just enough to help the smell travel on the wind. "Nothing grand. I'm no wizard like yourself, just a baker who knows a few small charms. Useful things, keeping the oven temperature steady, making sure the dough rises properly, that sort of thing. Practical magic." "The best kind," I said. He smiled at that and pulled the cloth off the dough on his board. It had risen beautifully, pale and smooth and round. He pressed his fingers into it gently, testing its readiness, then began to divide it into smaller portions. I watched him work. There's something deeply satisfying about watching a craftsman at their craft. Martin's movements were economical and sure, no wasted motion, no hesitation. His hands knew exactly what to do, shaped by years of repetition until the work had become almost like breathing. He rolled each portion of dough into a ball, then placed them on a baking sheet, spacing them evenly. His hands were gentle but confident. The dough responded to his touch, becoming smooth and taut under his palms. "What are you making?" I asked. "Hearthbloom rolls," he said. "They're a specialty of mine. I bake them every evening as the last batch of the day. They're meant to be eaten before bed. They carry warmth with them. Not just physical warmth, but the other kind. The kind that settles in your chest and makes you feel less alone." "Enchanted, then?" "In a way. Though I like to think the enchantment comes more from intention than from magic. I make them with care. I think about the people who'll eat them, travelers like yourself, cold and tired and far from home. I think about giving them comfort. And somehow that thought works its way into the bread." He glanced at me. "Does that sound foolish?" "Not at all," I said. "I think intention is its own kind of magic, stronger than most spells, really." He nodded, pleased, and began brushing the rolls with something from a small bowl. Butter, I thought, melted and golden, but it shimmered slightly in the firelight. Enchanted butter, perhaps, or butter made with such care that it had become something more than ordinary. The rolls went into the oven, and Martin closed the iron door with a soft clang. He stood for a moment, hands on his hips, looking satisfied. "They'll need about 20 minutes, he said. "In the meantime, you should eat something. You look like you've been walking all day." "I have been." "Then sit. I'll bring you something proper." He moved around the small bakery with easy familiarity, gathering things. A wooden plate, a small knife, a crock of butter, a jar of preserves, dark purple, probably made from the same snowberries in the tea. He cut several thick slices from a large round loaf. The crust was deep golden brown, almost mahogany, and when the knife broke through it, I heard that perfect crackling sound that tells you the bread is exactly right. The inside was pale cream, soft and airy, with an even crumb. He arranged the slices on the plate, added a generous pat of butter and a spoonful of the preserves, and brought it to me. "This is frost glow bread," he said. "Eat it while it's still a bit warm. It's best that way." I took a slice and spread butter on it. The butter melted immediately, soaking into the soft interior. I added a bit of the preserve. It was jewel bright in the firelight, and took a bite. The bread was, I don't have adequate words for it. It was soft but substantial, light but satisfying. The crust had a deep, almost caramelized flavor, while the crumb was subtly sweet and wholesome. The butter added richness, and the preserves were tart and sweet at once, with whole pieces of snowberry that burst on my tongue. But beyond the taste, there was something else, a feeling, like being tucked into bed as a child, like hearing a lullaby sung in a voice you love, like safety and rest and the promise of sweet dreams. I ate slowly, savoring every bite. Martin watched me with quiet satisfaction, the way any artist watches someone appreciate their work. "This is incredible," I said when I'd finished the first slice. "Truly. I've eaten in royal kitchens and wizards' towers, and I've never tasted bread quite like this." Martin's cheeks colored slightly with pleasure. "You're very kind, but I think bread always tastes better when you're cold and tired and in need of comfort. Context matters." "Perhaps, but I think skill matters too, and intention, as you said." He busied himself tidying the work table, but I could see he was pleased. I ate another slice of bread, then a third. Each bite was as good as the last. My body, which had been cold and tired and tense, began to relax completely. The warmth from the oven, the warmth from the tea, the warmth from the bread. It all combined into a feeling of deep, profound comfort. Outside, the snow continued to fall. I could see it through the frosted windows, steady and soft, accumulating on the windowsills. But inside, All was warmth and light, and the gentle sounds of a baker at work. Martin checked the rolls in the oven, opening the door just a crack to peek inside. Satisfied, he closed it again and turned to tend to something else, a pot on the small stove, which he stirred with a wooden spoon. The scent that rose from it was rich and sweet. Spiced milk, I realized, with honey and cinnamon and perhaps a hint of vanilla. For after the rolls, he explained, it pairs well. Time seemed to slow in that small bakery. Or perhaps it moved at its natural pace, and it was only the rest of the world that rushed unnecessarily. I watched the firelight flicker across the stone walls. I listened to the soft pop and crackle of the wood burning in the oven. I breathed in the mingled scents of bread and spice and clean wood smoke. "Do you get many travelers?" I asked after a while. "Some," Martin said. "Not many. This valley isn't on the main roads. But those who do come are usually in need of warmth and rest, and I'm always glad to provide it. Do you ever get lonely?" He considered this, stirring the spiced milk slowly. "Sometimes," he admitted, "especially on the longest winter nights. But loneliness and solitude aren't quite the same thing, are they? I chose this life. I built this bakery with my own hands, stone by stone, board by board. I planted the snowberry bushes and learned which herbs grow best in snow and how to coax flavor from simple things." He smiled, and every few days someone comes, someone cold, someone tired, someone who needs what I can give. That feels like purpose, like meaning. I'm not lonely when I have purpose. "That's wise," I said quietly. "Not wise, just old enough to know what matters." He ladled the spiced milk into 2 mugs and brought one to me. "Here, the rolls are almost ready." The milk was hot and sweet and creamy, with foam on top that left a pleasant mustache. The spices warmed my throat as I drank. It was the kind of drink that makes you drowsy in the best way. Not sleepy like you want to collapse, but sleepy like you want to curl up somewhere safe and let the world fade away for a while. Martin opened the oven and pulled out the tray of rolls. They were golden brown, perfectly risen, their tops glazed and shining. He set them on the work table to cool slightly, and the smell that rose from them was intoxicating, yeasty and sweet and buttery and something else, that same elusive quality I'd tasted in the bread. Comfort made edible. He placed 2 rolls on a small plate and brought them to me. "Careful, they're hot. Let them cool for just a moment." I waited, though it was difficult. The rolls sat there, steaming slightly, calling to me. Finally, I picked one up. It was still very warm, almost hot, but not quite burning. I tore it open. The interior was soft and fluffy, pulling apart in tender layers, and took a bite. Oh, it was heaven, light and soft and just slightly sweet, with a buttery richness that coated my mouth. And that warmth, that inexplicable warmth that spread through my chest, like sunlight breaking through clouds. I felt my eyes prickle slightly, not from sadness, but from the opposite, from comfort so complete that my body didn't quite know what to do with it. "Good?" Martin asked, though his smile said he already knew the answer. "More than good," I managed. This is exactly what I needed. I didn't know I needed it, but I did." He nodded, satisfied, and bit into his own roll. We ate in comfortable silence, the snow falling outside, the fire crackling in the oven, the world reduced to this small, warm space and these perfect moments. I was halfway through my second roll when I heard it. A soft sound, a gentle tapping at the window. Martin looked up, smiled, and went to the window. He opened it just a crack, careful not to let in too much cold, and I saw a flutter of white. A small bird perched on the windowsill, not entirely a normal bird. Its feathers seemed to shimmer with frost, and its eyes were too bright, too knowing. A winter spirit, I realized, one of the small ones, creatures of snow and cold that were barely more than animals, but not quite. "Hello, little one," Martin said softly. He broke off a piece of his roll and offered it. Here you are. I didn't forget you. The bird took the bread delicately in its beak, chirped once, a sound like tiny bells, and flew off into the snow. Martin closed the window and returned to his seat. She comes every evening, he explained, always at the same time. I leave the window unlatched for her. A winter spirit? I think so, though she might just be a very clever bird. I've never asked, and she's never said. He smiled. It doesn't really matter, does it? She's cold. I have warm bread. That's enough. I nodded, taking another sip of the spiced milk. The world outside was growing darker now, true night settling in. But inside the bakery, the lanterns and the firelight kept everything golden and warm. You're welcome to stay the night, Martin said. There's a small room upstairs, not much, just a bed and a blanket, but it's warm, better than trying to camp in this snow. I would be grateful, I said. Thank you. No need for thanks. This is what the bakery is for. We sat together a while longer, finishing our rolls and milk. Martin told me stories of other travelers who'd stopped here, a knight on a quest who'd been so tired she'd fallen asleep at the table, a merchant caravan that had sheltered from a blizzard, a young couple on their way to be married who'd shared their first meal as husband and wife, sitting right where I was sitting now. Each story was gentle, warm, full of small human moments. No grand adventures, no drama or danger, just people finding shelter and warmth and a brief respite from the cold world. Eventually my eyes grew heavy. The warmth, the food, the milk, the comfort, it all combined to make me impossibly drowsy. Go on up, Martin said kindly. I'll finish cleaning and bank the fire. Sleep as long as you need. I climbed the narrow stairs to the small room above. True to his word, it was simple. A bed with a thick quilt, a small window, a wooden chair. But it was warm, and when I lay down on the bed, I sank into the mattress like it had been waiting for me. Through the floorboards, I could hear Martin moving about below, the soft sounds of tidying, the clink of mugs being washed, the creak of the oven door as he checked the fire one last time. Outside, the snow continued its gentle falling. Through the small window, I could see the flakes drifting past, each one catching the light from below and glowing briefly before disappearing into the darkness. I pulled the quilt up to my chin. It smelled of lavender and wood smoke and clean air. My eyes closed. And as I drifted towards sleep, I thought about what Martin had said, about purpose, about choosing to create something warm in the cold, about the simple, profound act of giving comfort to strangers. There was magic in that, I thought, real magic, the kind that mattered, the kind that lasted. I woke before dawn to the smell of fresh bread baking. When I came downstairs, Martin was already at work, kneading a new batch of dough. He smiled and poured me a cup of tea. Take some bread for your journey, he said, wrapping several rolls in cloth. And come back someday, if you pass this way again. I will, I promised, but you know how these things go, don't you? Years passed. My travels took me in other directions, and though I thought of the Snowfall Bakery often, especially on cold winter nights, I never quite made it back. Sometimes I wonder if it's still there, if Martin still bakes his hearthbloom rolls every evening, if that little winter spirit still taps at the window for crumbs. I like to think so. I like to think that somewhere in a quiet, snowy valley, there's still a warm light glowing, still fresh bread cooling on wooden shelves, still a place where cold travelers can stop and rest and remember what it feels like to be warm. And perhaps that's what matters most, not whether I return, but knowing that such places exist, that in this cold world there are people like Martin, people who choose to create warmth, to offer comfort, to give freely without asking for anything in return. That's a kind of magic worth believing in. So now, dear friends, as you drift towards sleep, imagine you're there, in that small bakery by the warm oven, with snow falling softly outside and the smell of fresh bread all around you. You're safe, you're warm, you're welcome. Let your breathing deepen. Let your muscles relax. Let yourself sink into rest, like sinking into that comfortable bed with the lavender-scented quilt. Tomorrow can wait. The cold can wait. For now there is only warmth, only comfort, only the gentle knowledge that you are exactly where you need to be. May your dreams be as warm as fresh bread. Sleep well, dear friends.